at us. Okay, so this is, and there's been multiple reports that have been put out there about this, but rules changes for college football have been proposed by the College Football Officials Board of Managers, which is one hell of an organization title. How about that? And these rule changes could be implemented as soon as this season. Now they have to be voted upon. Obviously, there's a process involved here, but these have to do with the clock in college football. So do you want to hit each one and comment on each one, or we don't want to go through them all and comment on them all together? You make the call.
Let's hit each one.
Okay. The first rule change suggestion: prohibiting consecutive timeouts, like dead ball. So basically, I think this is a rule to stop icing kickers like with multiple timeouts in a row.
I think is dumb. If you take back-to-back timeouts, they're not going to go to another commercial break. At that period, it's going to be the end of the half. The network's already used their breaks, and it's really not going to matter. The kicker's going to walk over there, sweep the leg a couple of times, quick 30 seconds, and you're back out there. They'll probably pass it, and I'm fine with that. You know, it really doesn't bother me either way, but I don't think ultimately it's going to be a difference in any measurable time at all across all of college football games.
The question I have is it just going to be applied to kicking situations? Because at the end of a game, let's say it's the end of the game, it's fourth and 5 from the 5, game's on the line, right? Offense comes out in the formation, defense calls timeout, right? And if you have another timeout on defense, like in that way, you talk about the formation, talk about maybe something they could change to. They come out in something different. Can the defense not call timeout?
Yeah, we got 10 guys. We didn't get our right package out there.
Can they not call timeout again? That's the only question I have. Like, is it just going to be applied to kicking situations? Because I could see a situation where, hey, man, you may have to call back-to-back timeouts every once in a while.
Well, I mean, it's a good point you bring up. That's why I think it's not worth doing, because I like things that make sense. And if you can't call back-to-back timeouts to ice a kicker, you shouldn't be able to call back-to-back timeouts at any other point in the game, right? Like, I don't view it as a special situation. It may not even be a kick. If the holder bobbles the ball, he may be picking it up to throw it. So I need it to like really make sense. And I think what you bring up is, that's what I say. Like, I don't know that there'd be any measurable difference. I mean, how many games a weekend are they calling multiple timeouts to ice kickers? I just don't think it's going to be that big of a difference. Could be wrong. Maybe it happens constantly, but if it messes something else up like that, then I don't think it's worth doing.
Yeah, no, I hear you. That seems fair. Okay, on to the next rule change proposal. No longer extending a first or third quarter for an untimed down if the quarter ends on a defensive penalty, which is an interesting one, right? This is another one similar to what you just said about, calling back-to-back timeouts to ice a kicker. How many times do we see an untimed down at the end of a first or third quarter because of a defensive hold or a hands to the face or whatever? Like, I don't know, it doesn't happen very often. Or maybe it happens way more than I realize, but I'm fine with this rule, I think, because I don't think it's going to affect very many games at all.
I would tweak it and say it's up to the offense to determine if they'd like to take that untimed down now when maybe they've got the wind or something,
Yep.
or if they'd like to take the down after the exchange of quarters.
I completely agree. And people that go to OU games realize like the wind could be a factor.
Yeah.
And the wind is often why you choose a certain end of the field.
Yep.
Right. So I think I'm with you. I think the offense should be able to choose. And this maybe not the best point to bring up, but what happens if you're down big, man? Like you need every second, every snap you can get if you're that offense. So I like what you suggested. Like, hey, just let the offense determine it. Like if they want to use it or not. Like if you're up, clearly you don't want the untimed down. You want to move on to the fourth quarter. Let's flip the field. Let's roll.
Yeah.
But
like if you got a neutral zone or something, and the offense gets a free play, but it's a punt, and you're punting into the wind, and you get a chance to, if you want the free untimed down, you should be able to opt out of it to punt with the wind if you want to, or if the wind happens to be at your back and you want to repunt right then, you can't. You know what I'm saying? Like I think there's some situations where that's why it should be up to the offense. If because there's some external factors there that could have an impact on what decision you might make.
yeah, no, I feel you. Okay, the next one is the one that I think has the best chances of passing. And honestly, I think I would not be surprised if it's implemented this season. The proposal is that the clock continues to run after an offense gains a first down, except inside of 2 minutes of each half. I'm all good with that, man. I really am. I think that I do think having it stop on a first down inside of 2 minutes is more fun. Right? It's really hard in the NFL, and I know that Patrick Mahomes, the whole 13 seconds kind of has ruined everyone's viewpoint on that whole thing. But it's really hard to go win an NFL game if you don't have any timeouts and there's only like a minute left on the clock.
Yeah.
A minute feels like eternity at the end of a college football game because the clock stops with first downs. And it creates more suspense. So if they want to wind the clock after first downs, except for the last 2 minutes of each half, I think that sounds great. I got no problem with it. Sign me up.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with it. I don't see. I don't think there's a big problem with it. I'm fine, except for the 2 minutes before the end of a half. I'm okay. Like I'll have some idea like to wrap all of this up when we talk about it at the end. But as far as this individual rule, I'm fine with it.
And the last thing they're kicking around, and I don't think there's any way this ever gets passed. The clock runs after an incomplete pass once the ball is spotted. I don't see it ever happening, man. And I think it's dumb. I just think it's stupid. I don't know exactly why I think it's so stupid. It just sounds silly. And I think they're doing it in the XFL. Maybe that's why it's not as silly to some, but I don't know. You throw an incomplete pass, the clock stops. I don't. It just feels right.
I don't mind if you throw an like I think there should be the time restriction, like the last 2 minutes. Obviously, right? Incomplete
Right.
pass, like if you try to kill it and all of that stuff. I think it should stop in the last 2 minutes. I don't necessarily have a problem if you throw an incomplete pass and the ball is now spotted for play, and then they run. I don't have that big of a problem with it, but
just imagine this though. You run a play, you throw an incomplete pass, you then hurry up to the football to snap it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just feels wrong to me.
Well, I'll tell you who it's wrong for is the defense. You know, incomplete pass, deep ball, deep foul ball, and they're right back on it. Right back on the ball, and I'm fine. Like you can't. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but you can't do both of those. Like you're gonna have to pick one, and if I have to pick one, I'd pick running the clock after the first down.
I agree. I expect the clock running after first downs, except for inside 2 minutes of each half. I expect that to be implemented. I do.
Yeah.
I feel like I've talked about this before on here. I do not understand. And it's hard for everyone. It's hard for players. It's hard for coaches. It's hard for fans. It's hard for refs. College football and the National Football League should have the same rules. The exact same rules. The hash marks should be in the same spot, and the refs should only have to know one set of rules. Broadcasters should only have to know one set of rules. Hey, these are the rules for big-time football, and they're all the same. That would be... I don't understand how we're not there in 2023, the year of our Lord 2023, Ted, and we can't just get universal rules for big-time college football in the National Football League. It's ridiculous.
Why would high school be any different?
Exactly. Throw high school. Come on, high school kids. Let's do it.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm realistic though. I know that's not going to happen. It makes a lot of sense. I wish it was done that way, but you can get closer than what they are. Here's my thing. If you're worried about the real world time of games, there's better ways to do it than what they've suggested. The number one way to speed it up is the current review system they have in college football. It is horrible. I don't need an official to stop play, have a quick conference, say the play is under review, jog 80 yards downfield, have some guy on the sideline bring out some stupid little stand. He jostles with the headset to get it on, make sure the connection's okay. Can you hear me? How's it going up there? And then you watch the play. We don't need both people watching the play. The booth can do it, make the decision quick, and get it back down. That's the best way to speed up college football, because they review everything, and it's an ordeal every single time. And frankly, the guys on the field are biased whenever they're ruling on their own call, right? So take it out of their hands, put it up in the booth, get it done quick. The way the XFL was doing it, I think, is fantastic, where you've got transparency. You hear the whole conversation. I love that. There's no reason to do it the current way that they do it. Second way to speed the games up, the fake injury crap. That is BS. If you lay your ass on the football field, you should have to come out that series and the next series. You can't convince me otherwise. If you're ready to come back in on that series, you're not hurt enough to have laid on the field. If you're ready to come back in the following series, you're not hurt enough to lay on the field. Get up, hobble off. You got a cramp, hobble off. That will speed up the game.
I love how much you hate the fake injury stuff.
It's horrible, man. It's horrible. It's horrible.
It is horrible, and it's tough on officials. Like they're in a what are they supposed to do? Like, hey man, are you faking? Like they're in a terrible spot there. Yeah, they
no
can't really do anything.
Than the basketball game crap that we watched earlier this year. You know,
don't get all those high school basketball fans tweeting at me again.
It's disrespectful.
It was like an onslaught for a week. And I still believe in my heart of hearts what that coach asked those kids to do is complete and utter horse poop.
It's disrespectful to the game.
Correct.
If you change the replay procedure and you change the fake injury crap, you've made up the time between the two, like to get more in line with what the NFL is. Also, you got 20 minutes of halftime that you can play with if you want to tighten things up.
Yeah. What's NFL halftime? 12?
12.
And I do believe
like that's your difference between NFL and college right there.
Yeah, I saw Ross Dellinger wrote an article about this entire thing. The average FBS game this year was 3 hours and 21 minutes. The average NFL game was 3 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So now the problem is that's average, right?
Yeah.
There are some short games.
3 hour, 21 minute game this year.
Yeah. There are some short games. Like Army's playing some 2 hour games.
Yeah.
And then we were in some 4 hour, 15-minute daddies. You know what I mean? So there's
injuries, and it's because we go fast and people want to do the fake injury crap and you get reviews. You got targeting reviews. You got half times. It's just,
I do think that some of these rule changes are going to happen, and it's all going to be labeled under player safety, right? And we all want. Now, let me say this. Football is not a safe game. It never will be a safe game, but we all want it to be as safe as it possibly can be at every level. I think everyone can agree with that. But player safety is going to be when these rule changes, or at least I expect at least one of them, maybe two of them, to get implemented, if not next season, this season. It's going to be that player safety is going to be the talking point, right? And one of the things is, dude, there's just a lot of plays in college football games, right? With tempo and everything, with just some of the different ways that college football operates compared to the NFL. And I think that's what they want to do, because you're adding more games with the extended college football playoff. And I know that's only going to be for a handful of teams, but you're adding games. And I think the way that you justify that, if you are a conference commissioner or athletic director, or university president, is say, hey, we're going to reduce the number of plays in the other games, or we're going to reduce the total number of plays, and changing some of these clock rules it is a way to do that. And I also read in that Dellinger article, they are starting to talk about an NFL style challenge system instead of the review system that college football is currently operating under. So I think that's how it's going to be labeled, Ted. It's going to be a player safety thing.
Yeah. And I got no problem with it. And I know a lot of people are thinking right now, if you want to make the game faster, then you just cut out some of the commercial breaks. But here's the interesting thing. Number one, that's not going to happen, right? We got to make money for this thing. But number two, in the multi-year study that they did, games that are televised versus games that are not televised, there was only a 2-minute difference in the average length. Thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I was like, how's that even true? But I was like, hey, the data's staring me right there in the face. But just the play thing, I think I remember it was the NFL games average 155 plays, and FBS games average 180. So 25 plays is a lot of collisions, man. It's a lot of collisions.
25 plays over over a 12-game season. What's that? 300 snaps?
Yeah. So I do think, and I
That's
do
a
think,
lot of football.
dude. And now, like, think about if you, and I know it's only going to be a couple teams, but think about if you don't have a first round bye and you make the national title game. Like, it's a lot of football, man. It's a lot of snaps.
Yep.
So I do think them just running the clock after first downs, except for inside 2 minutes of each half. I think that's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen this season. I hope it does. And I'm interested to see how that reduces the number of plays in games. They cannot do the run the clock after the ball is spotted after an incomplete pass. It will look ridiculous. I won't stand for it, Ted. Like, I'm just imagining, just think of this. The Sooners threw quite a few bubble screens this year, right?
Yeah.
Threw a few of them incomplete, right? Just imagine Dylan Gabriel. He takes the snap. He fires a bubble screen to Farouk. Oh, it's a little high. It's incomplete. They line up. He turns. He fires a bubble screen the other way. It's just like, it would be absurd.
They almost do that anyways. Like
I
whenever he
know.
catches it, that's what's happening. No, I'm with you. If you really want my opinion, oh boy, people don't like this. I would say that you have to huddle.
Make a rule that you have to get in the huddle.
Unless you're in like a 2 or 4 minute type of situation. Like, because if that's really what they're talking about, like if you really want less snaps, and I get it, because you have to like really push the envelope in college football with the rules, because like in the NFL, it doesn't matter as much because the rosters are so similar. But in college, you have one roster that is so much better than the other that the team that doesn't have the horses has to find a way by going fast and by doing some things to try and keep themselves in the game. Like, and I get that, and I don't necessarily want that to change, but I think the product would be better if everyone kind of slowed down.
I 100% agree.
It may not be popular, but I
played in Kevin Wilson's offense, right? We went about as fast as you could go at that point in time. It would have been nice to get in the huddle every once in a while. Would have been really nice.
Yeah,
but
it's a little, there's a rhythm and there's like a cadence to football. Like even when you're watching it, you know what I'm saying? It's like you build up for a play and it's a big result, or okay, we didn't get it. Let's regroup. What do you think we should do here? Let's try and, but now it's just like, oh,
dude, that's the one thing. And I know you and I have talked about this, about calling a game, especially with how fast OU's offense is going under Levy. As a player, like, you never get that reset. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where, hey, that play's over, reset, collect yourself, clear your mind, clear your thoughts. Let's go do it again. Here we go. Sign yourself up for another car crash. Here we go.
That's right.
But no, it's just like bam, bam, bam. You're just like, oh my God.
Yeah. No, but that's like, I understand why people do it. And that's kind of the hard thing. Is like, if you want there to continue to be chances that your underdog can go in and beat someone on a random day, you got to leave things in like that.
I hear you. It would be nice if OU got to a point from a roster building standpoint where they looked at their guys and they went, you know what? I think we'll just get in the huddle this season.
We'll just huddle and then run it for 8 yards and then huddle and then just like plow you over. You know, I think that's what everyone's striving to do at some point. But here's the other part of it, man, because of recruiting, not to go on other tangents, is like, there was a point where, like, if you could win a game by doing that, you absolutely would. If you could snap it 40 times on offense and smoke somebody, that's what you do. But now, your quarterback needs to throw for 4,000 yards, right? You got award season, right? We need We need guys with production and points and touchdowns to where the kids watching in high school want to come and catch 15 touchdowns in a fast offense. So that factors into it too.
Yeah, and ultimately, and I, not to disrespect our friends at the old College Football Officials Board of Managers, but ultimately, I feel like if the TV networks want to streamline the games a little bit and have them fit a little better in those windows that they've paid so much money for, rule change is probably going to happen.
Yep.
Probably strongly suggested by Fox, ESPN, whoever, right? Like, hey, let's get a better idea of how long these games are gonna be. Yeah, let's get a little more consistency.
It's like you guys can vote on it if you want, but you know where the money's coming from. This is what we want the games to fit into. So figure it out.
I've got a feeling that's part of that conversation. Players, you can say player safety all you want. We know the company's writing the huge checks in college football.
Player safety is a lot easier for people to swallow than the networks are telling us that we have to do this.